Hey guys, how you going? Hope you're all doing very well. This evening I'm going to be doing a movie review. This movie is a war film from Germany, German language English subs, released in the year 2018, directed by Robert Schwenke, and this film is called The Captain. So The Captain takes place 2 weeks before the end of World War II. You've got the Third Reich that's in disarray, and there is no hope for the future. So at the start of the movie we've got this German private who's running for his life from a truckload of German soldiers, and it soon becomes apparent that he is in fact a traitor. He's a deserter. So he's run away from war, he wants to escape it, but now these German soldiers are going to kill him as a result. And so he actually manages to escape, and that's lucky for him. But unfortunately now he's by himself, he's cold, he's hungry, and he's terrified. He doesn't know what to do. But then he comes across an abandoned car that has a suitcase containing a Nazi captain's uniform. So he puts this uniform on, and now he wants to try and trick other people in them believing that he's in fact a captain. And this newfound power is actually turning him into a monster. So what happens and whether or not this guy can be stopped is something you're going to have to find out for yourself, because that's as far as I'm going with my synopsis. Now my thoughts on The Captain. This is definitely a blind experience. No one ever talks about this film, and I was actually surprised that it even existed. I come across this in stores here in Canberra one day, and I thought, alright, well this is a German language film, and Germany have actually produced some really good war films. They're very different war films, and I think it's the best type of war film is giving you an insight into demonised people, and demonised people in this regard is ultimately the Third Reich. Yeah, German soldiers. Is that we want to paint it black and white. Yeah, we're the good guys, they're the bad guys. But if you actually have that mentality, you are threatening for history to repeat itself. Is that you have to get an understanding of evil elements. And these evil elements in these movies that Germany do so well is giving you an insight, and you're unable to disconnect yourself from these people. These are everyday people. The ideology is the true demon in this instance. And so Downfall, directed by Oliver Hirschberg, is one of the best war films you'll ever see. One of the best performances from Bruno Ganz as Hitler. That was Hitler's last days in his bunker, and I thought that was absolutely fascinating. And the fact that Oliver Hirschberg managed to gain sympathetic qualities to these people in the bunker, I thought was very, very strange, and it gave me a feeling that I really hadn't felt before as far as war is concerned. So when movies like this actually occur, it is very different. And so yeah, you do have your patriot sort of war films where the Allies save the day, and that's all well and good. But when you get different insights into the bad guys, I think it's definitely war films that you really need. And so The Captain has that feeling to it. When I saw the trailer, I thought, alright, well this is from the perspective of a German private. And what is Robert Schwenke actually going to be able to produce in this film? So go into it with no expectations whatsoever. I was completely blown away by what Robert Schwenke had to actually produce. So I thought this is one of the best films I have seen as far as the war genre is concerned, because it's not so much a war film as it is a movie about psychology. It's a movie about the corruption of power. Is that this man could be someone like Adolf Hitler. Is that yes, in this film it's a private who puts on this captain's uniform, and he has gone from being this very scared private to a monstrous captain. And because he's got that power, now he can inflict as much damage as he wants. And this is the scary thing, is that Adolf Hitler did it, Joseph Stalin. And you have to ask yourself, with all these terrible dictators, if they had everyday if they were everyday people without the power, how would they have turned out? And so you and me, our neighbour, our friends, if they are given so much power, could they actually turn into a monster? Could the egotism actually get the better of them? And I think Robert Schwenke, he delivers that in such an interesting way in this movie. I believe that this is the closest to a horror film that you will get without it being a horror film. It's just really incredibly disturbing. It's very, very chilling. And there were some scenes that had the hairs on the back of my neck standing up. And that's not something I was actually expecting from a movie like this. And so this is a movie you can watch in two different ways. You can have black and white, and you can have colour. And I believe there's not too much to differentiate between the two, is that even in the colour version, there is not much colour at all. So he emphasises that nightmarish feeling that this film has. There is no real hope. There is all disaster. Is that this guy is well above his head. Basically, he's well out of his depth. Things are going from bad to worse, and he's trying to control that. But because he's not a captain, because he's not qualified, he doesn't know how to control anything. And so it's the dangers of a man who is out of his depth, who is actually giving the facade that he is the captain, and how people will blindly follow authority, even if they don't really understand what it is and whether or not they agree with it. Because he's the captain, they're going to follow. And this is ultimately Adolf Hitler. Is that not every German soldier agreed with Hitler, but because he was the authority, they had to blindly follow him. And so so the whole film has that deep psychology as it is what it is to be a leader, and how giving power to a man who basically doesn't know how to wield it, I just thought it was absolutely riveting, and at the same time deeply disturbing how things go from bad to worse. And so the acting was absolutely phenomenal, especially this main character. This guy, I never felt as though he lost his humane touch, although he was developing into someone that he wasn't at the start of the film. Just his facial expressions, I could feel that he had hesitation, I could feel that he was actually traumatized by what was going on, but he's the captain now. It's almost like an alter ego. He puts on the supervillain costume, and all of a sudden he's someone different. Now ultimately this is not a paranormal film, but it just felt like it had an entity to it, and that entity, I like the fact that Robert Schwenker didn't develop this main character into a mindless monster, but a monster with that humane touch that actually made him that relatable character at the start of the film. He wanted to run away from violence, but all of a sudden, now that he can actually inflict violence, he is basically doing what he was afraid of at the start of the film. And so I just thought that was incredible, and it was just an incredible way to tell us a war film. And it's made even more scary by the fact that this is actually based on a true story. And in fact, the real captain in this film was only 21 years old, and that's absolutely incredible. Someone so young could actually create so much damage. And so this is a film that is very violent. Be very careful going into it. The violence is very hard-hitting because it is quite realistic. It's not gratuitous, it's not focusing and glorifying the violence, but the violence plays a pivotal role in actually giving you an insight into this man's mentality and how they, as I said, the corruption of power can corrode even the best of us. So the camera angles in this film were absolutely phenomenal. There were some very beautiful looking moments, but because it's beauty and such an ugly set of circumstances, it combines together to make an extremely haunting piece. So the soundtrack was phenomenal, and it just creates something that is deeply unnerving, very chilling, as I said, the closest to a horror film that you will get as far as war is concerned. And so if you are a fan of this type of thing, I would definitely recommend it. On top of that, you've got very suspenseful moments where at any point this private could actually be caught out. And basically, if he is caught, he's going to be sentenced to death. And so the stakes are very high. You know, the actual consequences for his actions, if he gets caught, are there. So I thought that there were some moments where some of the other Germans were second-guessing what this guy was all about, and it had me on the edge of my seat. And so the suspenseful set pieces are there to actually create a thriller. But more importantly, it's a psychological character study of a man who all of a sudden is given power but doesn't know how to wield it in a very good way, and how destructive that can be, and all hell breaks loose. And as I said, it's a very deep and dark film that I think a lot of war fans definitely need to go out there and see. So if this is your type of thing, I highly recommend you check out The Captain. I'm going to give this one 4 stars. Alright guys, that's it for my review. Hope you enjoyed it. Till next time, keep watching movies, and I'll see you later.